Imagine the narrowest pass in the ancient world, a strip of land so tight that two wagons cannot ride side by side. On one side, sheer cliffs of gray rock. On the other, the cold Aegean Sea. The year is 480 BC. The Persian Empire under Xerxes the Great is marching toward Greece with the largest army ever assembled in the history of the ancient world. Historians put the number at anywhere between 100,000 and 500,000 men, soldiers from 46 nations, cavalry, archers, immortals, war elephants, chariots, siege engineers, naval support stretching to the horizon. Xerxes himself sits on a golden throne carried by servants on a hilltop overlooking the pass, watching his empire move like a living flood across the face of the earth below him. And blocking his path at a place called Thermopylae stands a force that defies every rational calculation of military science that the ancient world had ever produced. 200 Spartans, not 300, not 1,000, 200, selected personally by King Leonidas from the finest warriors Sparta has ever forged in 3 centuries of absolute military culture. But here is where fate twists into something stranger than legend. 3 helicopters from an unknown future descend from a cloudless sky and deposit 50 additional Spartan warriors directly into the pass. Warriors from a future Sparta that never existed, trained not just in the ancient phalanx, but in the complete military knowledge of 25 centuries of warfare that came after Thermopylae. The helicopters are gone before anyone can process what just happened. No explanation, no return, just 50 additional shields added to the wall of 250 Spartan warriors who will hold this pass alone. The mission given to them by the oracle at Delphi is absolute. Hold Thermopylae for 7 days. Give Greece time to mobilize its navy at Salamis. 7 days against the largest army on Earth. Comment right now. Do you believe 250 Spartans could hold the gates of fire against a 1,000,000-man Persian Empire for 7 full days? Because what I am about to reveal will shatter everything you think you know about human limits. The 250 Spartans stand in the pass and look at the Persian advance force with eyes that have never learned what fear feels like. They were trained from birth not to feel it. At the age of 7, every Spartan boy was taken from his mother and placed into the Agog, the most brutal military training program any civilization in history has ever conceived and sustained. For 13 years, they slept on reed beds in the cold. They were deliberately underfed and forced to steal food to survive, punished not for stealing, but for getting caught while doing it. They were beaten regularly, not as punishment, but as conditioning, to teach the body that pain is information, not command. That the signal to stop is not pain. The signal to stop is death. They trained in formation fighting from the age of 10. The phalanx, the wall of overlapping shields and extended spears that transformed individual men into a single armored organism that moved and killed as one. By the age of 20, a Spartan warrior had absorbed more genuine combat stress than most professional soldiers experience in an entire modern military career. By 30, he was at his absolute peak. The 200 Leonidas selected are not his best warriors on paper. They are his best warriors with sons already born, men who have already fulfilled their obligation to Sparta's bloodline and can die freely. The 50 future warriors added to their number carry something even more dangerous than additional shields. They carry knowledge. They know every Persian tactic that is coming. They have studied this battle for their entire lives. Their leader is a woman named Thea, a Spartan military historian from 3 centuries forward, who volunteered for this mission knowing she would never return to her own time. She stands 5 feet 4 and radiates absolute authority. Comment below, would you want this group of 250 standing between you and destruction? Because the enemy marching toward them makes every other army in this script look like a training exercise. The Persian Empire of Xerxes is not an army. It is a civilization in motion. It is the combined military, logistical, and financial power of the largest empire the world has ever seen, moving in a single direction. At its core are the Immortals, 10,000 elite Persian warriors, who have never numbered fewer than 10,000 because every fallen soldier is immediately replaced. They are psychological as much as military, the symbol of Persian invincibility. Each immortal carries a spear, a short sword, a bow, and a wicker shield reinforced with iron. They wear scale armor of iron and gold that catches the light and blinds observers at distance. Behind the Immortals are Median cavalry trained to operate at full gallop in coordinated formations, capable of flanking any defensive position that has a single exposed side within range of their horses. The Mede archers are the terror weapon of the Persian advance. Trained to fire in coordinated volleys from horseback, they can put 10,000 arrows into the air simultaneously in what contemporaries described as blocking out the sun. Persian logistics are the real secret of their power. They have supply lines stretching back to Persepolis, food, water, weapons, replacement soldiers, medical support, siege equipment. They can sustain this campaign indefinitely. The Greeks cannot. Xerxes has one strategic assumption as he approaches Thermopylae. No force on earth would be insane enough to stand in that pass against what he is bringing. He expects the Greeks to simply flee. When his scouts return and report that the Spartans are there, calmly combing their long hair and performing calisthenics in full view of the Persian advance, Xerxes refuses to believe the report initially. He sends a second set of scouts. Same report. The Spartans are there. They are not hiding. They are not building additional defenses. They are exercising, in full sight of the largest army on Earth. Comment below. Knowing the size of the force coming toward them, would you have stood in that pass or found a reason to be somewhere else? Your answer reveals whether you think like a Spartan or like a reasonable person. Xerxes sends his first message before the battle begins. A rider approaches the pass under a flag of truce, carrying a papyrus letter with the royal seal of the Persian Empire pressed into golden wax. The message is translated to Leonidas by a Greek-speaking Persian diplomat. It reads, "Great King Xerxes, Lord of Lords, King of Kings, Master of all lands from the rising to the setting sun, offers the Spartans mercy. Lay down your weapons, surrender the pass. Swear loyalty to Persia. In return, every Spartan man will be allowed to keep his life, his home, his family, and his place in the world under Persian rule." Leonidas listens to the entire translation without expression. Then he sends back a response that has echoed through 25 centuries of human history as the most economical piece of military communication ever recorded. 2 words: come and take them. The diplomat stares at him for a long moment, then turns his horse and rides back toward the Persian lines, carrying the answer that starts the battle. Thea, standing at Leonidas's shoulder, says nothing. She already knew exactly what he was going to say. She has read those 2 words in every military history book she has ever studied. Hearing them spoken in person is something different entirely. On the morning of the 3rd day, the Immortals themselves are sent forward. Xerxes has watched 2 full days of standard Persian infantry shatter against the Spartan phalanx like water against stone. He has lost 3,000 men and taken 4 Spartan lives. 4 against 3,000. The mathematics are so impossible that his generals have argued with his scouts about whether the numbers can be accurate. They are accurate. The pass is so narrow that Persian numerical advantage means almost nothing. Only a front of perhaps 20 men can engage the Spartan wall at any given moment. And the Spartan phalanx at Thermopylae is not a static defense. It is a living tactical weapon that Leonidas deploys with a sophistication that shocks even the veterans who have fought in it for decades. The Spartans rotate their front line every 3 minutes, fresh warriors replacing exhausted ones with a precision that functions like the shifting of mechanical parts rather than the behavior of human beings under fire. They fake retreats, drawing Persian units forward into the narrow neck of the pass, where the walls close even tighter, then wheel and destroy the pursuing force in a killing ground of their own design. Thea has added something to this rotation that ancient Sparta never developed. She has organized the 50 future warriors into a reserve force that operates on a different tactical frequency than the main phalanx. While the 200 hold the wall, her 50 shift position constantly, appearing at pressure points before they become crises, filling gaps in the line before they open, moving at a speed the Persians cannot track or predict. The Immortals crash into this system on the morning of day 3 and discover that their reputation for invincibility is worth nothing in a space this narrow against men, this specifically prepared for exactly this kind of fighting. In 4 hours of continuous combat, the Immortals lose 600 men. The Spartans lose 11. Xerxes, watching from his golden throne on the hilltop above, grips the arms of his seat until his knuckles whiten. His generals have never seen him do that before. In 20 campaigns across 3 continents, Xerxes has never had to grip anything while watching a battle. Battles go the way Persia directs them, except this one. Comment if you are shocked that this kind of mathematics is even possible, because day 4 is where the battle transforms from military history into something that feels closer to mythology made physically real. On the evening of day 3, a local shepherd named Ephialtes appears at the Persian camp and asks for an audience with the great king. He has information to sell, information about a mountain path. There is a goat track that winds through the mountains above Thermopylae and comes out behind the Greek position. It is narrow, treacherous, known only to locals, and it bypasses the pass completely. In the original history, this moment dooms the Spartan. Xerxes sends the Immortals up the path at night. By dawn of day 4, they are behind the Greek position, and the trap is closed. But Thea knows Ephialtes is coming. She has known since before this battle started. She has stationed 12 of her 50 future warriors on that mountain path for 2 full days, waiting for this exact moment. The Immortals, moving in silence through darkness on the goat track, walk into an ambush constructed by people who studied their every tactic for years before setting foot in this century. The 12 ambushers are not trying to stop 10,000 Immortals. They are trying to slow them long enough to change what happens at dawn, and they succeed at a cost of 8 of their 12 lives. At first light, Thea brings the surviving 4 ambushers back to Leonidas with their report. The path is taken. The Immortals are coming around. We have perhaps 6 hours before they close the trap completely. Leonidas calls his war council. It lasts 4 minutes. At the end of it, the allied Greek forces, the Thespians, the Thebans, the Corinthians, who have been fighting alongside the Spartans, are ordered to withdraw northward immediately. They carry the warning to the Greek fleet at Salamis. The 7 days are almost completed. The fleet needs to move. The naval battle that will save Greece is ready to be fought and won. What remains in the pass is the core. 231 Spartans, 19 of Thea's future warriors, and 700 Thespians who refuse the order to leave and choose instead to die alongside the men who held the world. Leonidas stands before what remains of his force and delivers the speech that Thea has spent her entire scholarly career trying to reconstruct from fragments. She hears it now in its complete original form. He says, "We knew when we came here that we were not going to leave. Sparta did not send us here to survive. Sparta sent us here to buy something with our deaths. We have bought it. Now we spend the final payment." Comment below. Would you have stayed, or would you have taken the order to withdraw? Because the answer you give to that question in complete honesty reveals the deepest truth about what you actually value most. The final battle of Thermopylae lasts from dawn until the middle of the afternoon. The surviving Spartans and Thespians fight on the small hill called Kolonos at the end of the pass. They fight in a circle, shields facing outward in every direction, the formation shrinking inward as men fall but never breaking, never fragmenting into individual panic, never losing the discipline that 300 years of Spartan culture burned into every fiber of every man standing there. Persian arrows eventually darkened the sky above the hill. Contemporary accounts say the Spartans are ordered to fight in the shade, since Persian arrows will block out the sun. They do exactly that. Thea falls on that hill. So do 18 of her 19 future warriors. The last one survives with wounds that will kill him 3 days later. He carries Thea's written account of the battle northward toward Athens. That account, discovered centuries later in fragments beneath a temple foundation, contains things no 5th century Greek writer could have known: tactical details, psychological observations, strategic analysis written in a hand that scholars will spend generations arguing about. The Persian army passes through Thermopylae and marches toward Athens. But the delay has done what it was meant to do. The Greek fleet is positioned at Salamis. The naval battle that breaks Persian power forever is about to begin. Xerxes sacks Athens and burns the Acropolis. Then he watches his navy destroyed at Salamis. Then he watches his army destroyed at Plataea the following year. Then he marches home and never returns. Greece survives. Western civilization is born. Democracy, philosophy, theater, science, mathematics, the foundations of everything the modern world considers fundamental, emerge from the culture that 250 warriors fought 7 days to preserve. Comment below, do you think what happened at Thermopylae was a military victory or a defeat that somehow produced a greater victory than any victory could have achieved? Because that question has an answer that applies directly to your life. Now, let me show you the 3 possible versions of how those 7 days could have ended, depending on decisions made in the past between the mountains and the sea. First ending, the complete sacrifice, 60% probability. Exactly what history records, but amplified. The Spartans hold 7 full days. Every man dies on the hill of Kolonos. The Greek fleet destroys Persian naval power at Salamis. Greece is saved. Western civilization is born. The Spartans who died in the past are remembered for 2,500 years as the defining example of what human courage looks like when it is taken to its absolute limit. Thea's written account survives in fragment and becomes one of the most debated archaeological mysteries in Greek history, studied by scholars who cannot reconcile its anachronistic tactical knowledge with any 5th century source they can identify. Second ending, the negotiated delay, 25% probability. Thea uses her knowledge of what is coming to engineer a different outcome. Instead of last stand sacrifice, she creates a tactical withdrawal that preserves most of the Spartan force. The delay is achieved, but the legend is diminished. Leonidas survives. Some historians argue this version of events would actually have produced a stronger Greek military coalition for the battles that followed Thermopylae. Others argue that the death of Leonidas and his 300 was the event that psychologically united all of Greece in a way that survival never could have. The sacrifice created a story. The story created a nation. Third ending, the pass is taken. 15% probability. Ephialtes finds a way around Thea's ambush on the mountain path. The immortals close the trap by midnight rather than by dawn. The Greek fleet does not have enough time. The Spartans die on the hill of Kolonos, but the fleet at Salamis is caught repositioning and destroyed in detail by Persian naval superiority. Xerxes occupies all of Greece. Western civilization develops under Persian influence. The democracy experiment in Athens ends after 7 years. Socrates is never born. Plato writes nothing. The philosophical tradition that shapes 2,000 years of Western thought simply does not happen in the form that history recorded. Tell us in the comments which ending you believe was most likely, and what you think would have happened to the world we live in today if the pass had been taken 2 days earlier. Throughout those 7 days in the pass, 6 decisions determined whether the Spartans achieved their impossible mission. Let me show you each one and what it means for the battles you are fighting in your own life right now. First decision: volunteer for a mission you know you will not survive. Every Spartan at Thermopylae knew the mathematics before they marched. They went anyway, not because they believed they would win, because they believed the mission mattered more than their survival. How often do you avoid the right action because you cannot guarantee the outcome? The Spartans teach that the willingness to commit completely without guaranteed return is the rarest and most powerful force in any conflict. Second decision: hold the line when every rational signal says retreat. On day 2, the Persian losses were 10 times Spartan losses, and still the attacks kept coming. Any rational calculation said the Persians would eventually break through. The Spartans did not operate on rational calculation. They operated on discipline. Discipline is what you do when rational calculation says stop, and your commitment says continue. That gap is where legends are made. Third decision: rotate before exhaustion rather than after. The 3-minute front-line rotation was the tactical innovation that made the mathematics of Thermopylae possible. Fresh warriors replacing tired ones before fatigue could create an exploitable gap. In your life, in your work, in your physical and emotional battles, rotation before exhaustion is the principle that makes sustained high performance possible. Most people push until they collapse. Champions rotate before they need to. Fourth decision: send the allies away. Leonidas could have used the allied Greek forces to try to hold longer. Instead, he sent them north, with the warning that mattered. He traded manpower for strategic impact. Knowing which assets to preserve and which to spend is the most difficult resource decision any leader ever faces. Leonidas spent his Spartans and preserved his allies because the allies could do something his Spartans could not. They could survive and carry the message. Fifth decision: fight in the open, even when the pass is lost. When the trap closed, Leonidas had the option to attempt a breakout. He chose the hill instead. Not because survival was impossible, but because dying in place served Greece better than escaping served Sparta. There are moments in every important campaign when the most powerful move available is to plant yourself where you stand and refuse to move regardless of what is coming. Those moments are rare. When they arrive, recognize them. Sixth decision: make the last stand beautiful. The Spartans on the hill of Colonus fought with a technical precision and collective discipline that Persian observers recorded with something approaching reverence. They did not die in chaos. They died in formation. How you perform when everything is against you and the outcome is already determined is the truest measure of who you are. The Spartans made their final performance their finest performance. That is the sixth decision, and the one that echoes loudest across 25 centuries. Comment which of these 6 decisions you think was the most critical, because each one maps onto something you are facing or will face in the most important battles of your current life. Now, let me translate what happened in that narrow pass into direct wisdom you can use in the impossible battles of your modern life. Because Thermopylae is not ancient history. It is a blueprint. First lesson: choose your terrain. The Spartans did not fight Xerxes in the open field. They chose the one piece of ground in all of Greece, where Persian numerical advantage was neutralized completely. Terrain selection is strategy. In your conflicts, you do not have to fight on the ground your opponent prefers. Find the narrow pass, the space where your specific strengths dominate and their superior resources cannot be fully deployed against you. Second lesson: rotation beats endurance every time. Raw endurance says push until you break. Strategic rotation says cycle resources before they degrade. The Spartan phalanx survived 7 days because no single warrior fought until he had nothing left. Build rotation into everything you do at a high level. Rotate your focus, your energy, your emotional investment. Fresh eyes and fresh energy deployed cyclically outperform constant maximum effort over every extended time period. Third lesson: your reputation arrives before you do. When Persian scouts reported that Spartans were in the pass combing their hair, Xerxes delayed his first attack by a full day because he could not believe what he was hearing. The Spartan reputation bought them 24 hours before a single spear was raised. Build a reputation so clear and so specific that your opponents hesitate before engaging with you because they already know what that engagement is going to cost them. Fourth lesson, hold the pass, not the city. Leonidas was not defending Athens. He was defending the time Greece needed to save itself. Knowing exactly what you are defending and refusing to be distracted by everything else is the clarity that makes sacrifice meaningful. What is your actual pass? Not the surface-level goal everyone can see. The deeper thing your current effort is buying time to protect. Identify it, because everything else you sacrifice should be in service of that one thing. Fifth lesson, the death of the mission is not the death of the impact. The Spartans failed to hold the pass. They died. Leonidas died. Thermopylae fell. And yet the impact of what they did there shaped the next 2,000 years of human civilization. Your effort will not always produce the outcome you intended. It will sometimes produce something larger than the outcome you intended. Commit completely to the mission. Trust that full commitment creates impact beyond what you can currently measure or predict. Sixth lesson, send the survivors north. Leonidas preserved the Allied forces specifically because they could carry the warning that would save Greece. He knew his Spartans were the final payment, but he also knew the message had to get through. In your hardest battles, identify the people and the information that must survive and make sure they do. Not everyone needs to go down with the ship. Sometimes the most important act of leadership is deciding who carries the message forward. Seventh lesson, 250 can neutralize 1,000,000 with the right terrain and the right system. The mathematics of Thermopylae look impossible until you understand that the pass reduced a 1,000,000-man army to the effectiveness of 20 men at any given moment. Your competitor may have 100 times your resources. Find the narrow pass where those resources cannot be deployed. Compete in the space where your specific capability dominates and their scale advantage cannot be brought to bear. Eighth lesson, discipline is what functions when motivation has completely run out. On day 6, every Spartan in that pass had used up every reserve of inspiration, adrenaline, purpose, and willpower a human being possesses. What kept them moving was not feeling, it was structure. The habit of discipline so deeply embedded that it functioned without any emotional fuel behind it at all. Build your disciplines in the easy times so they function automatically in the impossible ones. Ninth lesson, the last performance matters most. How you behave when the outcome is already determined is the performance that people remember. The Spartans on the hill of Colonus fought with technical excellence until the last man fell. Your hardest moment will come when the result is already clear and continuing seems pointless. What you do in that moment is the clearest possible statement of your actual character. Make that statement deliberately and make it the best performance of your life. 10th lesson, buy the time that others need. Leonidas was not trying to save himself. He was not trying to save his 250 warriors. He was trying to buy 7 days for a fleet that would save a civilization. Ask yourself in your hardest battles, who am I buying time for? What fleet am I protecting? What larger victory is made possible by my willingness to hold this particular pass at this particular cost right now? Comment below which of these 10 lessons speaks most directly to the battle you are in the middle of at this exact moment, because that answer is the map for your next move in the fight that matters most. Here is the deepest truth buried inside everything that happened at Thermopylae. The Spartans did not win the battle of the pass. They lost it on the 7th day exactly as they always knew they would. But they won something that no military victory has ever purchased in the entire history of human conflict. They won the story. And the story turned out to be worth more than the pass, more than Athens, more than Greece itself. Xerxes could take land. He could take cities. He could burn the Acropolis. He could march through every physical thing the Greeks had built. But he could not take back what happened on that hill. He could not unmake those 7 days. He could not erase the image of 250 men standing in a narrow pass refusing to move, while the largest army on earth broke itself against their shield. That image became the founding myth of Western military culture. Every special forces unit, every elite military tradition, every culture that believes a small force of exceptional warriors can change the outcome of a conflict beyond what numbers suggest draws from Thermopylae. The Spartans transformed their defeat into the most powerful military recruiting tool the world has ever produced. They made losing so magnificent that it inspired more fighting spirit than any victory could have generated. Your empire mindset says, I need to win this battle to matter. I need to achieve the outcome to justify the effort. I need the result to validate the sacrifice. Without the result, the sacrifice was wasted. Your Spartan mindset says, the sacrifice has value independent of the outcome. Full commitment to the right mission is its own justification. How you fight tells the story, and the story outlasts every empire that was ever built. The most dangerous belief you carry is that only victory validates effort. That belief will cause you to avoid the Thermopylae moments in your life, the stands that need to be made regardless of outcome. Some of the most important things you will ever do will not produce the outcome you intended. They will produce something more important than the outcome you intended, but only if you commit completely without a guarantee of return. You are facing your own Thermopylae right now. Maybe it is a business that everyone around you says cannot survive against the competitor that is moving in your direction with overwhelming resources. Maybe it is a relationship that requires you to hold a position that feels impossible to maintain. Maybe it is a health battle where the army coming at you is larger than any force you have faced before. Maybe it is a career pivot that everyone in your life is telling you is insane, given the odds stacked against you from every direction you can see. You are the 250 Spartan. Your challenge is the Persian army. The question is not whether you can win in open battle. You probably cannot. The question is whether you can find the narrow pass. Here is your battle plan drawn directly from the hot gates. First, find your Thermopylae. Identify the terrain, the market, the conversation, the specific domain where your particular strengths dominate and your opponent's superior resources cannot be fully deployed. Second, rotate before you exhaust. Build cycling into your high-performance effort from the very beginning. Identify the frontline rotation that keeps your best capabilities fresh when the battle is at its most intense. Third, build the reputation before you need it. The Spartans' reputation arrived at the pass before they did, and bought them a full day before the first blow was struck. Your reputation should be working for you before any conflict begins. Fourth, know exactly what you are holding the pass for. Identify the fleet you are buying time to save. Keep that specific larger purpose at the front of your awareness on every day the battle gets hardest. Fifth, send the message through. Identify who carries the crucial information forward. If you do not survive this particular campaign, make sure they know what they are carrying and where they are going with it. Sixth, make the last performance your finest one. Decide in advance that how you behave when everything is against you will be the best, most disciplined, most technically precise version of your capability that has ever been on display. The honest answer about whether 250 Spartans could hold Thermopylae against the Persian Empire for 7 days is yes. History tells us the answer is yes. 250 human beings held the largest army on Earth for 7 days and died doing it. But the deeper answer is that those 7 days changed everything. Not because the Spartans won, because they refused to lose cheaply, because they extracted maximum cost from a defeat that was always inevitable, because they turned the mathematics of loss into the mythology of something permanent. Your impossible mission may not produce the outcome you are aiming for, but if you commit completely, if you hold the pass with everything you have for as long as it can be held, the impact of that commitment will reach further than any outcome you could have planned. Comment now, "I am a Spartan," if you are ready to find your narrow pass and hold it with everything you have regardless of what is coming toward you. Tell me in the comments what Persian army you are standing against. The comments section becomes Aragoj, the place where Spartans forge each other into something harder than what they were when they arrived. If this story lit something in you that was waiting to be lit, share it immediately with 3 people who need to hear it. Spartans never trained alone. Your phalanx needs to see this now. Subscribe for more wisdom drawn from the moments in history when small forces of extraordinary people changed everything against every rational prediction. Next video, 50 Viking berserkers versus the elite samurai army of feudal Japan. The collision of 2 warrior cultures that never met in history, but were made for exactly this kind of confrontation. Hold your pass, hold your formation, and if the moment comes when the arrows darken the sky above you, fight in the shade like the Spartans taught us, because that is how 250 stops a million. That is how a narrow strip of ground between a cliff and a cold sea becomes the birthplace of the world you live in today. That is how a defeat becomes the most powerful victory in the history of human civilization. The hot gates are waiting. Your phalanx forms now.